Crown molding does not have to be complicated. Let me show you the easiest way to install it. So when I hold this piece up, I only have to ask myself one question. Do I want the top edge or the bottom edge to be longer? Crown molding does not sit flat against your wall or your cabinets. It sticks out at an angle. So we're gonna have to cut it at that angle. In this case, I want the top edge to be longer because it's gonna need to come out to meet the piece that's on this side that's coming out at an angle. Right, so see how this piece sticks out further up on top than it does on the bottom? So this piece will also need to stick out further on the top. So we know the bottom edge is 8.5, and then we want the top to be longer because it's gonna stick out further. Do yourself a favor and write which is the top and which is the bottom so you don't get confused. So at your saw, you're actually gonna cut it upside down because if not, you would need to be cutting it like this. This is not safe. So we're gonna flip it upside down so that we can cut it like this. We're still at that same angle. We're using the fence and we're using the bottom, but we need to remember, which do we want longer? The top or the bottom? So I remember from my bottom edge, I need 8.5 inches. So I'm marking 8.5 inches here. So this edge is flat against the wall. It doesn't need to be angled. Then I'm going out 8.5 inches and then it needs to go away. So flip it upside down. Remember, that's what we're flipping it upside down. And then we're gonna rotate this 45-degree miter. But which way do we rotate? So if we go 45 degrees this way, this is our bottom, remember? This is the bottom. We labeled this bottom. If we cut it this way, is this gonna make the bottom edge or the top edge longer? Well, if we cut it this way, this is cutting away our top. So we don't want it this way. So we just switch it this way to 45. All right, and then let's double check. This is our bottom edge at 8.5 inches. So we're gonna start there. That's where the cut is gonna start. We're at an angle. And then if we cut this way, is this gonna make the bottom edge or the top edge longer? This is our top, remember it's upside down. Yes, it will be longer than 8.5 because 8.5 goes to there. So let's cut it. So now can you see this was our bottom edge at 8.5 and then it gets longer at the top edge. So let's go put this in place. All right, let's see. Oh, would you look at that? Perfect. On the very first try. I've been doing this method for years and I've never cut it the wrong way. All right, let's secure it. All right, let's go to the next piece. I know this entire piece is 96 inches on the bottom, but do I want the bottom or the top longer for each of these sides? And as you can see here, I want the top longer on both of the sides because it's coming out in an angle. I want the bottom at 96 inches and the top longer on both sides. Wait, let's do the other little piece first. This is the top, this is the wall. We need 8.5 inches from the bottom edge, but we flip it upside down. And then here's our starting line. Do we want the bottom or the top to be longer? We want the top to be longer. So it needs to cut this way this time because that will make the top longer and the bottom will still be at 8.5 inches. Oh, look at that, perfect fit. Now time for the long piece. Don't forget to label the top and the bottom. Flip it upside down. Now for this side, which do we want to be longer? The top or the bottom? We want the top to be longer on both sides. So we're rotating it this way so the top can be longer. We haven't done our measurement yet, so I'm just gonna cut off as much, or I'm gonna leave as much as I can. Ugh, I gotta go that way. I gotta move my whole saw. Okay, reminder, this is the bottom, this is the top. We cut it upside down. Which do we want longer? On this side, do we want the top to be longer or do we want the bottom to be longer? We want the top to be longer, so our cut needs to go this way. So we're gonna move our miter to 45 degrees. So now when I cut it like this, which one is gonna be longer? Remember, this is the bottom edge, this is the top edge. See how the top is gonna be longer because we're measuring from here. The bottom is gonna be at 96 inches and the top is gonna be longer. So we find our length measurement. Now that we know which way it's gonna be angled, we draw that angle, and then we're gonna cut. Oh, look at that, perfect. There you go, perfect angles every time.